Hello, hello, hello.
What should we do? Should we go around the room and everyone introduce themselves?
Sure.
Could take a while, but you know what? Like everyone, it's great to get to know everyone. And I really want everyone to feel comfortable chatting. Otherwise, it's just me and it turns into a lecture. Actually, do you know what I'll do? I'll start by introducing Tal, our clinical psychologist, and just someone with so many amazing insights that have changed the way my life and the way I view business and the nervous system and the brain. And I'm just so excited she's here because I know for a lot, we like a little bit of woo-woo, a little bit of connection, a little bit of something personal and a bit deeper. And Tal's going to deliver that. So Tal, do you want to just introduce yourself to everyone and let them know your business?
Yeah. So, hi everybody. I'm actually really excited to be with stylists because I'm trying. I won't try and get your free advice, but I'm trying to buy a wedding dress online, and it is a nightmare to try and buy a wedding dress in lockdown. And I showed Sarah what I bought, and we agreed it was terrible. And now I have to send it back and try and buy another wedding dress. So I'm sure never before have I felt more in need of a stylist. Luckily, I have Sarah, who's got a lot of knowledge. So that's what I'm doing in my personal life. I got engaged about 10 days ago. So that's why I'm buying wedding dresses online. Yay! And in my professional life, I'm a clinical psychologist who works with women who have come to a point in their work where they just cannot keep up with the pretending everything's easy, pretending everything is perfect, feel very exhausted, frustrated, and burnt out in their work, and don't know how to say no, don't know how to set boundaries. It doesn't occur to them to disappoint people or let anybody down, and they're just stuck in this cycle of people pleasing. And I work with those women. And I also have I get very, very excited about this idea of really showing up in our businesses as our true selves, because I feel personally, and I know Sarah and I have talked about this a lot, this kind of pressure to show up online in content, whether it's or sales calls or webinars or consults, as like the professional self. And I'm super passionate and excited about this idea of just actually showing up as ourselves, as risky and as scary as that can feel, and transitioning out of the professional work, this is who I should be self, and into the real self. So that's what I get super excited about. And that's where I think a lot of the marketing that we're going to see is going to move towards that. And that's where Sarah and we sort of, our worlds intersect.
It's exactly right. And I guess this is probably a good place. Firstly, welcome everyone. It's so nice to see so many of you. I love that we get to connect, and I'm really happy. And for most of you, I know you, and you'll love this conversation. And I want you to sort of jump in, whether it's in the chat or just through the mouth. Just tell me what you're thinking and feeling. Let's just start. I guess let's set the scene here. What I'd love you all to do is write in the chat, if you had to think of one word that describes how you feel when you sit down at the computer to start writing a blog post or an email or a bloody lead magnet, pop in the chat a nice feeling that sums up, where you're at, where your headspace is at. Good, Donna, you're not clueless, but yes. I accept your response. Yes. Stumped, foggy, uninspired. Yes. I'll keep reading these out. This is absolutely right. I'm assuming that some of you are feeling overwhelmed, panicked. Yes. Burdened. Yes. What a burden. It's a burden because it's boring. That is the truth. It's boring because this is where Tala and I have come to the realization it's boring because we're not being ourselves, talking about what we care about. And Tal and I have felt that when you are talking about something you care about, when you're with your friend or your partner and you're in a conversation that you're really engaged with, you can talk for hours. You're not even thinking about how you're talking. It's almost like it's almost just directly from your unconscious. You're just expressing. So you've got all this amazing stuff to talk about. But then when we sit down to market our business, to show up in our business and try and attract clients, it's like this roadblock, and we end up creating content that we know is boring. We know we're just doing it to tick a box, or we're trying somehow to explain how we feel, but there's that pressure that, well, I need to appeal to this type of person. That person needs to hear this. So I'm going to try and craft everything for this specific person, which makes us feel even more disconnected. Tal, can you explain what the disconnect actually is mentally, what's happening?
Yeah, so psychologically, what I think is happening there is that we learn from a really young age who we have to be in the world in order to get love, care, acceptance, and belonging. And what that means is that we kind of like build a bit of a shell around ourselves, right? Like the shell of who I think I should be and who I should show up as. And for me, by the time I hit, being a psychologist, I had such a thick shell, right? Years ago, I was just like, well, I have to be the well expert. I have to have my shit together all the time. I have to have perfect relationships. I have to always be okay. I have to present as perfect all the time. Like there was this pressure. And maybe for stylists, I don't know, do you guys have you have to always look good? I don't know what the equivalent is, but and you always have to show up. It's this like beautiful, put together person. You can't have like food stained PJs, on a Zoom call. And I mean, I guess nor can I, but probably more pressure on you. So we kind of get this pressure to sort of, in order to feel safe and in order to feel belonging and care from others, we learn who we have to be and what we need to do. And speaking personally, and this is vulnerable to share, but I feel like that's kind of what we're trying to shift into. I grew up, I went to a school where I was totally ostracized and bullied for the 6 years that I was there. It was every day was just going in, having no friends and trying desperately to just make somebody like me. And by the time I got to high school, I was old enough to go, well, that's bullshit, if I can swear. What am I going to do to fit in here? Because this is a bloody jungle, right? And so I started creating an even bigger shell to avoid ever feeling ostracized and left out and not wanted again. And I carried that shell with me, right? It's like a protective thing that we need to do. But what's going on inside is there's the real true self inside there, the soft, real, authentic part of us that feels, that can reach to other people's hearts, that feels like we have something to say, that's vulnerable, that takes courage to express. It gets kind of like squashed by the shell, right? It gets kind of like hidden by the shell. And what we want to think about is in our businesses, well, how are we showing up? And for a really long time as a psychologist, I was showing up as this zipped up, perfect, well, I'm the well expert and I'm here to help you. And if you've ever been to see a psychologist who's done that, me doing that gives the profession a bad name, right? When I used to do that, because you feel like you're talking to a textbook. There's no real warmth and connection. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I was operating from my business from my shell. And I guess what I am really curious about with you guys is like, do you experience that in your business when you're showing up in your businesses? That I'm talking about you. Hi, Janine. Hi. Well, psychologists and stylists probably have a lot in common. But does anyone relate to that? Like this pressure to show up as this should be version of yourself rather than like the real kind of authentic, sometimes scary to be version of yourself?
Yeah, I used to. And then I stopped doing that, and I stopped following some of the people who I thought I needed to emulate and just being more me, and it feels a lot better. I've really found my niche a lot more, because I knew that I wasn't who I was pretending to be. It takes a lot of effort. Nothing comes naturally. So yeah, now I'm just me doing it my way. It just feels so much better.
And I'd say that that's one of the reasons that Tal and I and Dara are here today, and I dare say why a lot of you have joined. It's because part of you is like, I just don't think I can keep doing this anymore. Like spending the time doing this stuff that doesn't make a difference. If you feel like you're spending time every week creating content or marketing activity, or doing all the things that we know that we're supposed to do, and you're not getting that engagement, at some point in your business, whether it's now, whether it's down the track, you get to a point where you think, oh Christ, it's just not worth it. It's not satisfying anymore. It's not delivering the results anymore. And for the conversations that I've been having recently with some of you guys and with clients, it's just shown me that the power of connection, the way you make someone feel, is the most important component in building any business. Now, in a product-based business, it's harder. And so Dara, Tal, you've consulted with brands. It is very hard to personify a brand that's product-based, that's just a name, there's no face. But all of you have a business where you are the business, you are the brand. So the connections that you create can only occur when you're your authentic self, and they are really the only thing that we need to do to build our business. But there is this gap. There's this sort of, here's how I want to be, and this is what I want to talk about. But then there's, hold on, this is how I think I need to create content and do things. Jess in Sydney, you are a perfect example of someone that is very, very clear on who you are, and you've always been really firm with, no, I don't like doing that. This is what I like doing. The question then is, okay, what's the balance? How do we make sure that we're being authentically ourselves? But how do we make sure we can strategically communicate that on platforms or in marketing material that is making those connections? So tell me, everyone, how, in an ideal world, what would you feel when you're creating content? We can't get around it. This is 2021. We all know that we have to try and communicate and connect via different platforms, whether that's your blogs, your emails, your social media, videos, or what have you. But everyone type in the chat for me, what would you like to feel when you're doing this stuff? For me, I like to know that I'm having a laugh, which is why there was a mention of a murderer in a blog post I wrote about discovery calls. It's not the murder that was funny, but it was me having a laugh about an analogy that made it a little bit more personal and enjoyable. So let me open up the chat here. We've got Katrina saying you can't even reveal you can't reveal your real self in your business, and then you beat yourself up constantly for not doing so. So you're totally frozen in this shell. Frozen. You cannot operate from that. What I guess it's that fight, flight, or freeze mentality, isn't it, Tal?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, for sure.
And Melanie says, just getting ready. Oh. Just getting ready and I'll head out in a minute. Profound. Alex says that she'd like to feel creatively energized. Yes. Donna says invigorated. Yes. Eleanor says relaxed, happy, and chatty. Melanie says connected, like having a conversation. Kimberly, a connection, a relationship. Janine says, I'd like to feel excited about what I write, like it flows easily. M is authoritative and free-flowing. Mary says calm and lighthearted. Jess says she loves content creation and feels creative anyway as you're revealing yourself. You are the anomaly? Yes, you are. It's true, Jess. Fulfilled, says Fiona. Feeling myself. All of those adjectives, wouldn't you say, if I was to say, how do you feel when you're around your best friend and you're just having coffee or a wine or having a shot? I would imagine that those adjectives that you've all just shared is exactly how you feel when you're hanging out with your best friend. And what I believe and what my colleagues believe, as we have seen consumer sentiment shift, as we've observed how we respond to content, is there is no reason why we can't run our business from that place with that version of ourselves and feel that way. We just have to choose. Tal, what do you think?
I think it is a choice, and I think it's, first about becoming aware that there even are options, that there's the self that I think I should be, that I show up as. And I think, pop in the chat box if you agree, like when you're creating content or trying to sell something to a client from that should be place, the version of yourself that you should be, the professional stylist, whatever that is, how does that feel for you? Because I know for me, when I've done my own marketing from I'm the psychologist expert and I've never had a problem in my life and I'm here to tell you how to repattern your nervous system. I mean, even saying it is exhausting. Like, it's not me. I don't communicate like that with my best friends. You know, it's tiring. So we want to know that there's that version of ourselves and that there's this true self inside that's exciting to communicate from. And I think it's when we communicate from that version of ourselves that the people we feel most comfortable around get to see that the content creation feels good. But it's a choice, but it's a tough choice because there are assumptions about being in this true self, right? Like, do you relate to these beliefs? Like, if I really show up as myself with a real message that's from my soul, no one will buy from me. People will judge me. People will laugh at me. People will think I'm unprofessional or an idiot or stupid. Like, I can't show up as that version of myself because all these bad things will happen. And so then it's like, well, I guess I just have to go back to the should be version of myself. Do you guys know what I mean? Do you relate? Do you relate to that?
Yeah. I think it's the whole, I like to call it the whole cloning pandemic. You know, we're in a health pandemic, but I've always been very clear about this, and Sarah knows this from the beginning, that and this is why I've come on board. Hello, everyone, by the way.
Jess from Sydney.
This is why I've come on board, because I very much am into the whole psychology of style and why people dress and why people feel that way. So it's and something I've read a lot. You know, the studyings, I haven't studied psychology, but I read a lot about it. And I've spoken to a lot of psychologists. So this is why I find this conversation great, is there's so much cloning out there because people are trying to emanate other people just to feel like and accepted. And this is why when I do my content creating and everything that I say in it is very much related to, please come out of your shell. Please do something a bit different. Please do it new. Please just slowly start, eradicating your bad habits. And that is by doing one step at a time. So, yes, it is very much about that, what you're saying, Layla.
And something I wanted to add, I'm just going to share, I'll share the comments that people have been posting just before I crack on. Janine says she's had clients tell her and give reviews saying it's like spending time with a best friend. And up until now, I've wondered if I've been too friendly or unprofessional with people. Yes, isn't that so interesting? We worry that we're being unprofessional if we're being a little bit more candid or a little bit more informal. And yet you are all in an industry where people will choose to work with you because they feel safe being vulnerable with you. Like, that's exactly how you need to make them feel.
And you often make friends out of your clients because you're up close and personal with them. You're in their bedroom.
Yes.
Like, it's the most private part of a person's home and you see them half naked. So to me, that's like, well, you do become personal because sometimes you become very good friends with your clients. Sometimes not. It all depends on what it is, but you are so personal with them. So there is that level of psychology.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Mel, yeah.
Hi. Sorry, do you think it's because there's a monetary transaction?
A monetary transaction that we feel the pressure to show up as the sort of version of ourselves that we should be. I think that
being professional, professional, because whereas if you were being friends, there wouldn't be a commercial aspect to it. But the fact that we're being paid to do something, do you think we feel as though we have to be more professional?
I think so, for sure. I think that there is a sort of pressure as soon as you start getting paid. It's like, oh, holy moly, like I really better deliver on something here and be this professional version of myself, because what if they say I'm not worth the money? What if they say my competition is better? What if they criticize me? Like, I can't just say, hey, I gave it to you for free. They'll ask for their money back. They'll give a bad review. There is that pressure. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like we then go, well, because I'm getting paid, I can't be myself. And let me ask you this question. If you've got children, or I'm a puppy mum, right? If you were finding a nanny for your child, would you choose the nanny? They're both getting paid the same amount. Would you choose the nanny who showed up like buttoned up, prim and proper, like, you know, looks tough, isn't going to take shit, says she's the best in the business and she's professional? Or would you choose the nanny who came dressed as herself, got onto the floor with your kid, looked them in the eyes and was like, hey, we're going to have so much fun together. I'm a bit kooky. I like finger painting. I like wearing fairy wings sometimes. That's me. Are you interested? Right? Like, what would you want for your child? You know? And what do you hear in that metaphor? Because what it's really about is, just because there's a monetary exchange doesn't mean that the person that's giving us the money wants somebody false. It actually means the opposite. It means if they're investing in us, they want someone who sees them. And it's very hard to connect with someone and really see them if we're not being ourselves.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
I think that Kimberly made a good point here. She says, yes, I shoot from the hip and that's not accepted. And it's so interesting. I know what you mean, Kimberly. Do you want to just share with everyone a little bit about your shooting from the hipness?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good morning. It's 3 a.m. here in Detroit, Michigan.
Nice to connect.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am very honest with people because I found growing up, going through school, even in relationships, where people will kind of side from the truth because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But I'm the type of person, I'd rather you tell me the truth, let me process that. Even if I got my feelings hurt at the end of the day, I know you were honest with me. And if you can self-examine it, you know, examine yourself, you're able to take that in. But a lot of people, they're not willing to examine themselves. So they'd rather hear something false. And I can't do that.
But do you know, this is a really, really good point, and I want to explore this. What you're saying at the moment, and I know everyone, most of us feel this way, is it will impact the amount of clients that I can book. So I need to change myself to appeal to them. And again, if I look back at my previous roles, and anyone in marketing would say the same. Anyone that's building a business, traditionally, you would think, where is there that blue ocean? Where is the opportunity? Where's the underserved market? Let's create a product. Where's the need? And we're going to match those two in that way. And that is very transactional, and it has worked up until now. And I think that certainly for over the last 18 months, and it's been sort of slowly brewing, we've all just been getting a bit sick of the volume of content and the volume of stylized representations and the access we have to information. The way to connect now online is to sort of bravely stand in your spot and go, this is me. And when you are channeling that, when you are being your most truest, authentic self, you know that like attracts like. So this process is about getting people to come to you because they're resonating with you, as opposed to presenting a version of yourself that will appeal to a particular group. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question of you ladies? What is one or two things you would do immediately different in your business tomorrow if you were showing up more as your true self? You know, for me, it was like I would stop sending emails that read like, you know, everybody else's emails. I would start writing in a way that feels way more risky, but also honest. So can you guys pop in the comments? I'm super interested. Like, what would you start doing differently tomorrow? Just one thing if you were showing up more as yourself.
I can actually just say that I think I would personally just like to reach out to everyone, not everyone, to the majority out there who are cloning and say, you are such a boring bunch of dull people. You just really show up creatively and bring out your creative talents, because everyone is born with we're so unique. Every single person is, everyone has their own little creative touch. And I just find, as you said in the beginning, Layla, was that people are just in a box as what they should do. So instead of jumping out of that box and actually being free and being themselves and showing up as themselves, then people are just way too much in a box. So for me, I would love to just say, you're really dull. And, or, you know, to those people that are being really dull. Not everyone is.
You end
I'm frustrated.
But you'd end up attracting people that are like, God, she's bloody right. I need some. Do you know what I mean? It's the same, Kimberly. We at a certain point in our lives, it may be today or it may be down the track. You just have to think to yourself, what do I want to do from this moment on? Can I be bothered to keep up the charade? If that charade, if the way that you're doing the way that you're marketing your business is bringing you in a steady stream of clients and you feel okay with it, that's wonderful, and there's no problem. But for the rest of us that are feeling these feelings, you get to a point where you just think, okay, I've got to try something else. Maybe I'm just going to try standing here and saying, you dull bunch of boring people, for Jess, you know, or whatever it might be. Some people won't vibe with it and others will. And we can only just try being brave. And I guess the next part of that is going, okay, if I was going to be brave, I also don't want to just ad hoc go, what am I feeling today? You're all dull. We do want a blueprint or a plan for our marketing, for our content, because we know that regardless of whether we're being ourselves or not, people still go through that natural bias cycle of becoming aware of something new, not knowing if it's right for them, making that decision and eventually booking in. Can I just read some responses, Tal, for you? I don't know if you can access these.
I can see them. Yeah.
You can see them, yeah. So Janine's saying, she'd probably just stop overthinking it. Eleanor is saying, I wouldn't do lives. But you're so lovely. Katrina said, I would just start. Mary says, I'd stop writing such formulaic captions on IG. Kill me now, Mary. I know. Em says, to stop thinking everything has to be perfect. Exactly. It's perfect. What is perfect anyway? Mel says, I'm with you, Emma. Donna agrees. Alex says, integrate my faith more. I dare say, Alex, talk to us about that. Do you feel that's quite risky because religion is, I guess, typically a contentious topic?
Absolutely. But I think it's ultimately just what we've said and coming to the realization that there are certain people there for you. And actually by holding back the essence of who you are, you're actually, rather than, if you're thinking about repelling all the time, you've also got to think that I'm not attracting the right people, because it's happened to me online. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a Christian. And then all of a sudden I'm more intrigued. So I've got to think about how I relate to other people and how I want to know more about them and how that connects me to them, to go, are you releasing all of yourself to connect those people to you?
And just on that, if you were doing that, Alex, and for everybody else who posted, doing something differently, like Jessica and Janine and Eleanor and Katrina, etc., how would it start to feel in your business? Like, how would you actually start to feel every day waking up in your business and creating content and speaking to people? How would your energy levels be different?
Yeah, I think I'd feel more, just, what's the word, full, and be able to be totally, how I think, because you often have to change the words you're using. And so that's hard work to kind of think, I don't want to say that but it's actually what you believe. So I think it's from that perspective, I probably feel, it's free flowing. I think somebody said that free flowing and less energy, and just, we can all say authentic.
You'd be energized.
It would feel easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I said a creative and absolutely.
Yeah. And to that point, I just wanted to mention to everyone, I think the focus of how many people prioritize Instagram and creating visuals as really their primary marketing activity? Most of you?
Yeah.
Now, here's what I have to say about that.
Oh.
You guys, most of you know me, right? I am I'm not a quiet person. I have a big personality, and I struggle personally to reflect that accurately just in a visual. So what I think the other important component here is when you're also acknowledging who you've been showing up as and who you are, is to think, what is the marketing platform that allows me to be and represent myself in the easiest way? So I know someone like Jessica. Jess creates these incredible flat lays, which you love, and I know they take forever, but it's a labor of love. But for, let's say, Alex, for someone like that, what are you going to do? Use like memes of Christian people getting dressed? It's not going to work. It's not authentic, you know? So we have to also think to ourselves, okay, instead of trying to do everything, instead of trying to be on every platform, where do I want to speak from? Do I prefer writing? Do I prefer creating something visually? Do I prefer talking to others? Where am I at my best? And again, let's work from that place and not from, well, where is my audience? I better be there and I better show up, because you'll just be someone at a party doing small talk no one's interested in anyway. I mean, that's what it feels like, doesn't it, when we're creating this type of content? Small talk. Who likes small talk?
Oh my God, that's why I became a psychologist, so I would never have to do it again, because people just sit down and they straight away just go straight to the real stuff. What can I ask, do you notice what it costs you to show up as not yourself, as the professional self? Like, do you notice what that costs you in terms of your experience of your business day to day, creating content, speaking to clients, wanting to scale your business or grow it, just, you know, whatever it is? What does it cost you? I know for me, like, when I show up inauthentically, I find it exhausting, and I find it like betraying to myself. And I'm like writing emails and blog posts and webinars. I'm like, this is shit. Like, but I can't do any different because I have to be professional. And meanwhile, my soul is like, just like, let me take the wheel, trust me, you know. But you know, in the past, that's felt, I guess, a bit risky.
Do you know, Tal, I'll say this. Tal teaches an incredible method that I really needed towards the end of last year when we started learning about the nervous system and the different parts of your brain, and how to only work in your business when you're in your unicorn brain, the frontal cortex, the newest part of your brain, which I think is responsible for critical thinking and creativity. It's all good stuff. And I really needed that. And what is so interesting is I can tell you, Tal, as a recipient of information that I needed, it was so valuable. So in your mind, you might be thinking, oh gosh, I've made the way I'm delivering this, it's me, but maybe they'll perceive it as not professional enough, or not effective enough, or not correct, not technical enough. I received it, embodied it. It was fantastic. So
we are my people.
Yes. So what we're saying is, if you are going to create content within the image industry, let's say you'd like to do something on color, Donna, color specialist. We're not saying change the content. A lot of the information is really important. You want to establish yourself as a subject matter expert, or someone that understands what their pain points are. But what we're saying is, there's a way of being able to share that just feels so much more authentic. Is that, Tal, is that how you would summarize it? You know, we're not changing the content.
Yeah. So if you think about it as two circles, like in the middle, in this circle, the first circle is your true self, which is the you that feels most alive and relaxed and flowing. It's the you that when you're with your favorite people, that's the you that they see, that they love. And then on the outside is the shell, this like professional self, right? So we're not saying, you know, just share about your personal life, share when you have period pain, share when you have problems in your marriage. We're not saying change the content and share from that very, very raw place. We're saying, just what would happen if you shifted out of that shell of professionalism, right, where you feel you should be a certain way, and shifted more into the true self and shared the same content, with that voice. Like, for example, I could have come on tonight and been like, oh, well, I'm a psychologist and this is what the research says. And I've never had any of my own trauma. But I told you guys about like my childhood trauma in primary school, right? Because I can't be fucked, like lying, it's so boring. And I don't think it would have resonated with you if I'd come on here and like blabbed on about, psychology and, theories of self. Who cares? Right? I'm just trying to reach you guys and be reached by you. So it's the same content. It's just shifting how we share it. That's exactly right.
I'd like to share, Katrina says that the cost of not tapping into her soul's purpose meant that said it cost her a burnout, and then 20 years of being unable to do what her soul's purpose is due to resistance and now being frozen. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to work with Tala, because for any of you that have worked with me, you know that I typically ask these questions of you, similar questions. I do like to get to know you and draw out who you are. But I am not a psychologist, and sometimes who we are is a little bit hidden behind some blocks, some resistance. And I know myself, when Tal has asked me a couple of really introspective questions, sometimes you can't articulate the answer yet. And Tal, you explained that when we're young, at a certain point in our lives, something happens which tells us that we're not good enough just as we are, so we have to change and we have to adapt. But then those changes and adaptations to our personality become calcified. They become like a thick shell. So it's also for some of you that are thinking, I guess I would like to be myself. That sounds amazing. But how do I get there? Because it's not as easy as flipping a switch. If it was, that would be amazing. I could just click my fingers and we'd all be healed. But there's a process for all of us, particularly I think at our age and stage of business, where you have to dissect a little bit of that and sift through it. Do you think, Tala?
Definitely. I think it is a process. I think the first stage we're sort of getting to tonight, it's tonight in Sydney. It's the recognition and the awareness of the two selves, the true self, right? And then the professional self, right? That sort of sits around that as a protective shell. And it's about questioning, well, where am I running my business from? Where have I been running my business from? What's it costing me to run it from this professional self? And what is my soul saying? How do I actually, if I was really, really courageous and listening and trusting myself, how would I really show up in my business, right? So that part of the process, we're already starting that conversation, right? The next part is like, well, let's ground you more into that soulful part of you and listen to what that soulful part of you is saying and the messages that she wants to share, right? Like, let's really get you listening in. And the next part is let's challenge those beliefs. I'm speaking about the psychological process here. Sarah's genius zone marketing weaves into all of this. Then the third part is we want to challenge those old beliefs that have stopped you from being in your true self. So some of my old beliefs were like, well, if I show up as my true self in my psychology business and I talk about my own experiences of burnout and exhaustion and work abuse and all the stuff I've had to go through to get here, then I'll get into trouble with other psychologists. And let me tell you, there is a portion of my profession who loves nothing more than wrapping other psychologists on the hands. There's a very judgmental part of the psychology profession. So I was shamed immensely by some senior colleagues when I started to step out. So I was terrified of using my voice. But we have to challenge those beliefs that I'll get into trouble, I'll be attacked, I'll fall apart, no one will love me, I'll be rejected, I won't get clients. Like, now I've realized all of my social media stats tell me when I go on to social media and I share what's real, people are like, say more. Right. And when I go on and I'm just talking about psychology stuff, people are like, are you even a person? No. Say less. Exactly.
It's true. Yeah. How many of you think now to whether it was a blog, an email? Actually, Janine, do you want to share with everyone? You said the other day that in the 3 years you've been sending emails, you typically don't get much of a response. But then I think recently you did send one where you were a little bit more yourself, and lo and behold, it sort of touched some people.
Yeah, I sent out one to people saying how I changed in my business over the years, and it got more automatic response from the time it went out because I've been open and raw and real. So yeah, absolutely. I learn, it's so funny because we know all of this, but each time we all seem to, I'm sat here thinking, I know, you need to be yourself. We talk to other people all the time as stylists about being authentically real, yet we feel that we have to put on this sort of image to other people and to clients for them to think we are the professional person that they want to work with.
Yes. And isn't that crazy? Because most of you would say you are in the business of helping people be their most truest self, helping them reflect on the outside who they are on the inside. And yet, and look, I am guilty of this as well, because up until this revelation, the way that marketing strategy to me for the last 20 years has been based in sort of traditional sales, like commercial structures where you go, this is what's happening with the consumer, this is what we need to do. And it is changing. And I guess the question is whether you want to change now or whether you want to wait and watch everyone else change. Because you're right, Janine, you all know this. You all know that when you have posted something or when you've sent an email or you've done something that felt good and real and true, or Alex, when you've suddenly realized that your client was a Christian or your audience, the person you were talking to was Christian, there's that like spark, it's like 2 spark plugs and you're like, oh my God, this really works. And then something happens and you don't continue with that beautiful flow. And this is why I then, when I reach out to some of you, Eleanor, you can share your experience. I know that you've got all of this incredible experience, but a lot of the time you'll say, I just feel flat or I feel uninspired. Elle, what's your experience?
Yeah, exactly that. And it's fascinating actually listening to all this because just both of you just speaking right to my heart. And I was just talking to my husband yesterday. I went up to a do in London. It was for Fashion Week, and there were all these people there who were just like so my Auntie Jenny, who was one of my just heroines. And I was saying to him, that's who I should have been like. I've suppressed it for so long. And she is the real me. She's the person in my family who I'm most like, but I've suppressed it because it wasn't who everybody else wanted me to be. And then coming out of that, I feel that I can actually now be myself. I've sort of given myself permission to do that through listening to you, Sarah, through listening to Lauren yesterday when you do on your podcast. I suddenly thought, yeah, actually I can be me. It doesn't matter. And as soon as you are, then I know when I have done in the past, I've done 2 or 3 very open content, and the reaction I've had from it is incredible. So it's just having the courage to do it, isn't it? And just keep on doing it.
It's the courage, or as Tala and I say, it's either a question of do you have the courage, or are you at a place where you've got a lit match and you're about to burn your business down because the thought of continuing with this stuff is just too much. And I think that's what Lauren was saying in the podcast with Lauren Messiah. She did all the things. She did the funnels, the tripwires and the blogs and the webinars, and she did it all. And she goes, it was not worth it. She made her money, but she cannot keep going that way. And that's why when she said that to me, I thought, oh God, I hope everyone hears this. We're not saying that the old way doesn't work. It certainly does, but at what cost? So for people that are kind of connecting with this message, the cost for us, whether it's time, whether it's money, the cost is our soul. And the cost is also money because it's not converting clients anyway. So all of a sudden you're like, I'm running this business where I'm not actually connecting with anyone. I'm spending time doing stuff that is so boring. And I don't feel that I was put on this planet. There's a disconnect. And I, for one, have been amazed at how much joy I've found again in just, completely accepting. Katrina's saying now in tears listening to Eleanor and all of you. This is the first time.
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
You are not alone. And this bloody social media, I've got to say, has just really, I think, contributed a lot. It has a lot to answer for. Who is AA? Because I'd like to share your question, but I don't know your full name.
I think that's Alex.
Oh, why doesn't it say Alex? It's so funny, isn't it?
Because I had a look at that too. She made a comment and her full name was there, and then she made another comment and it was just her initials.
Oh, how funny. So Alex has got a question. How much does Instagram convert sales?
It's
how
not
much
Alex.
Is a piece of, how
It's,
much?
oh, it's another AA. Oh, there's two
Anne. Oh, Anne Whitaker. Anne, just turn your sound on. You can say your question if you'd like. Or I'll read it. How much does Instagram convert sales? Does having a presence on their work and worthwhile? Here is my answer. Please hear it. There is no answer. It might not. If you have a low-cost product and you can create lots of images and you understand it works for some people, it doesn't for others. This is the thing about marketing that I think is so important that everyone understands. There is a recipe for every single one of us. Every single one of us can generate clients, a pipeline of clients, and hit our revenue goals doing a little tiny version of marketing that works for us. It's like an outfit, you know. So,
goedemorgen. Je spreekt met Carmen Putzlaar.
Sorry?
Oh,
no.
Ik stond daar nog even, maar ik was even benieuwd of jij nog contact had gehad met Linda.
Someone talking to me? Can anyone hear that?
No, it's accidental. You might need to mute Carla.
Here we go. I will just mute. So the answer is, I wouldn't go to a platform thinking that it's going to be the magic bullet. And I think this is, again, what happens. We think the secret is in the tactics, the platforms. Oh, you've got to be on Clubhouse. You've got to be doing Reels because Reels get more views than IG stories now. None of that matters if you do not have the heart. If you are not creating content that people give a shit about, if you are not connecting, and if you are not enjoying it, then there is nothing that will work. And when you get to that understanding, even if you, that's why someone who only does one blog post a month and three social media posts, or one podcast every 2 months and 5 emails, people find success if they're connecting with people. It's not the platform, it's not the frequency. Even Google has sort of caught up with this in a sense from an SEO perspective. It's now realized that the only thing you can value is how much time people are willing to genuinely listen and connect with you. So, and it's, yeah.
Sorry, go on. No, I was going to say, it's good news. It's good news because it means that we get to swap the pressure to do more and learn another marketing strategy every 2 days. We get to swap doing more for courage, right? It's just swapping out the doing for courage. And that can be scary. And that's why I think this stuff is best experienced and talked about in the group. So everybody, because we get courage from each other. And when, someone sees Alex talking about her truth, it's like easier for them to do. It's like, far out, Alex did it. Maybe I can do it today. Like, we need each other. I think this is stuff that's best done in a community. But it's good news. It's not about doing more. You don't need to go and read 50,000 more marketing strategies.
No, you don't.
It be on every platform. It's the courage.
Does anyone feel also like they're kind of at capacity with learning?
Yeah, definitely. There's too much marketing tips out there. I've stopped reading them.
Aren't they all just bastards?
And it's all the same.
At a certain point, you just can't have any more ideas in your head. And you get to a point where you're like, do you know what? I'm going to call it and say I know enough, and I'm just going to try and crack on with what I've got in my head. The trick is getting it out there. Tala, I guess that's why psychologists have a job, is because it is, you need courage, you need guidance to be able to say it's all inside you. It really is. I guess then the way that I like to work now is being able to say, okay, well, who is the real you, and what does that look like as a brand? What does that look like for a webinar? Because you are going to want to sell products, you are going to want to sell services. whether it's leaderships, courses, one-on-one services, whatever it is, you are still going to want to build a business. But how can you do it from that place to focus on connections and not snap back into working from that shell? I'm just going to read. Yes, Melanie says too many free challenges. Yeah, exactly. A challenge. Who can be bothered? Who can be bothered anymore? You have to get to a point where it's just too much. But I don't know. Well, how's everyone feeling about that? Bored. Eleanor, bored with me or bored with the project? Yes.
I just want to say, you know what I'm bored with? I'm bored with people who put out these, come and join my 45-minute webinar, and you sit and you listen to, excuse my language, whatever time it is, wherever you are, I hope there are no kids around, shite, for 45 minutes of somebody literally talking nothing for 45 minutes to try and sell you something at the end.
Yeah.
You know, we've all sat through them, and I just... yeah, they drive me insane, because it's like, this isn't a sales mechanism. We all know it is, and it has to be a sales mechanism, but it's okay when people do give you something. But I've sat through so many where they literally don't really say anything for 45 minutes but chat, and then try and sell you into something at the end. So
but ironically,
I really try not to do that.
Janine, wouldn't you prefer they just said at the very beginning, I would love this as a webinar, someone just said, listen, this is what I'm like, this is what we're doing, this is the vibe. I think because of us all being in various stages of lockdown, we've all had additional time to do self-development or, you know, professional development, doing courses, reading. So the formula is becoming really, really monotonous. So the question then is, okay, if you're feeling that, Janine, then your potential clients are also feeling that. So what is the solution? How do you then reach out and connect people and foster connections and relationships without making them feel like you do when you're trapped in a never-ending webinar?
Yeah, I think we all feel like that, though, because you can end up feeling like you do a session, you can do it for free as a lead magnet, but then you can worry that you give away too much. And then you hear sometimes that you can never give away too much. And other times you feel like, well, I have given away so much because I've gone through all of that with them, and now they don't need to book me, because I've kind of, if you are a people pleaser as such and you want to give a good service, of course, when you do anything event, you give all of you. So there is kind of, I think it's finding your own balance, isn't it?
Tal, that's your specialty.
Yeah, I am like obsessed with boundaries in business and women charging appropriately for their services. That those are my two big things: boundaries and really, really valuing your worth. And also, as Sarah said, regulating the nervous system so that you're actually in the best part of your brain to grow your business, and not growing your business from a fight, flight, or freeze mode. Those are my passion areas. Yeah. So anybody who works with me, you know, often comes with this stuff of like, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I want to throw a match on my business and burn it to the ground. I'm like, just as Sarah says, just before you do that, let's just actually regulate your nervous system and get you saying no, you know, where you need to in your life and in your business, and things settle right down. No one's abandoned their business or career after that, you know, because they get their brains back online.
Does that resonate with everyone? Does everyone feel like that? Yeah, Alex?
Second, I think I put in the chat actually when you were asking what it cost, and I said charging. I think I would charge more, because that fear stops. It's like fear of rejection. If I tell them what I really want, they won't book me, so I'll put it down. I'll make it so easy for them not to reject me, because I'll make the price lower. So I absolutely feel that I would 100% charge way more than I do, if without that fear of just going, actually, I'm worth this, and saying that with no fear. And and it's very revealing when I meet other stylists or the people who have no issue in this area. And so they just go, this is how much. I said, how much do you? And so it's great, you know, being able to speak now on Zoom and with all different types of stylists that we never had access to before. And when I ask them how much they charge, and they just unapologetically give me their rate, I'm like, oh. And that is what is the telling part of like, okay, what is it in me that has gawped, that has went, wow, could I charge that? And so until that's kind of looked at, you know, I'm going to always be fighting this kind of, oh, should I charge this, should I not? And then the reality, when you get the check and you're like, oh, just didn't charge my worth, or I worked way more for very, you know, for not this amount. So yeah, I think it's really important to, look at that.
And Tal, this is,
Alex.
I know you've got a lot to say about the boundaries, but I think this is another big issue with the image industry, is that just because it's a fun industry doesn't mean you're not working your ass off, and for a lot of you working for years to gain the expertise, which means that yes, you might be able to do more in less time, but I think that the kind of average hourly rates or fees are almost never a reflection of the true value that you deliver, let alone the fact that you provide so much more, that counseling, holding space, being there for them, allowing them to feel vulnerable, exactly as if they were paying $250 an hour for a psychology session. Tal, I know you deal with this all the time. Why do we struggle to charge our worth?
I think there's a people-pleasing element of it. Like, I'm scared to say what I really need to ask for, because otherwise you're going to get angry with me. You're going to say that I should discount you, and we're going to be met with like a forcefulness or a confrontation. And then I think also because we don't know how to actually react when people push back. Like, the default position for me for a really long time was go, oh, sorry, yes, sure. I'll reduce it. So I think, and also finally, thirdly, because we doubt our own worth and our own value. So what we then must do to overcome that is, first of all, get crystal clear on the value that we provide, which has nothing to do with your self-esteem. It's not even about us. It's about, in the person's mind, who you are serving, what do they gain from working with you, the value that they then gain. So getting crystal clear on that, finding the language then to be really affirmative and empowered, but also kind and warm when you are sharing what you charge, and being ready with the boundary. I always love a boundary that's at the back of our minds and we've got it ready to go. We've got the words and the energy ready to go, rather than going, oh my God, I need to say something, I don't know what to say. So actually, if there is pushback, having the language ready to go and the explanation ready to go, so that we don't fall into the, oh yeah, sure, sorry, yeah, I'll charge you whatever you want.
Tal, can you just explain what a boundary means in your language?
Yeah.
It sounds like,
so,
you know what I mean, like in your...
Yeah, so it's really, really simple. If you go into your body right now, right, and you think about charging really like 20% of what you normally charge a client, like really, really low. Just imagine, right, that the next person who pays for your services pays 20% of what you would like to charge or what you normally charge. Notice how that feels in your body.
Rage.
Right. Anyone else? It's usually a feling of, Your body actually is the best vehicle you have for your boundaries. It's where your truth is. Right. So when we're talking about boundaries, what we're talking about is stuff that in our bodies we go, no, right? I don't like the way she spoke to me. I don't like the fact that she keeps coming late. I don't like the fact that she's not paying her invoices on time. I don't like the fact that he is being inappropriate, whatever it is. It's our body goes, So that's actually the internal boundary, and it starts first with the internal boundary. And then the external boundary is the vocalization of it, which should always be done with warmth and kindness and firmness. And we never have to become aggressive or lose our cool, because we've got lots of things in psychology that can help us stay warm and firm. And yeah, I mean, I could honestly, this is one of my most passionate areas as a recovered people pleaser. So I could talk about this for hours. I don't want to co-opt this beautiful conversation, but yeah, no, but there's a lot to say.
Ladies, it's all connected, and I don't mean to use that like ironically, like it's genuinely all connected. The fact that many of you don't feel comfortable charging what you want to charge, the fact that most of you don't like creating content that you don't care about, and you're resentful of the fact that you have to because you think you do, otherwise you won't get clients. The fact that all of you have a story, experiences, passions, love, excitement, all of this amazing stuff in our head, and yet we feel we can't share that in order to grow a business because that's sort of our private self. What Tal, Dara and I have decided as professionals in this industry is no, the way forward is not to hide that sense of self and then project a homogenous version of a stylist or a marketer or a psychologist or whatever. It's to say, no, I know that I can grow my business from the version that is the truest me, because strategically, that is the only unique differentiating factor you have. And secondly, from an emotional, spiritual, existential perspective, it's more enjoyable. It works. It's more enjoyable. Why wouldn't we do it? The end.
Yeah.
Ladies, thank you all so much for coming on and kind of, being brave enough to go, yeah, I'm gonna say the truth, and I'm going to agree. And I guess part of me, I feel bad that as a marketer I have perpetuated the pressure that a lot of you feel, but I am doing what I believe to be the reverse, and what is going to make things better. So yeah, that is all I have to say. Tal, thank you.
You're so welcome. I don't get to connect with stylists, so this has been really special, guys. Thank you so much.
I'm seeing all of your comments here. Thank you, everyone. My absolute pleasure. All right, ladies, I'll share the recording with you all shortly.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Lovely to meet you.